Next game we're talking about, another ranked game on Saturday, is number 20 Illinois at number 1 Oregon. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. Storylines to know in this game: this is the only currently ranked team Oregon has left on their regular season schedule. And right now, Dawn, according to our power rankings, Oregon has the best chance of any FBS team to finish the regular season with an undefeated record. Right now, their projected win total on PFF.com is 11.3. It's the highest of any team in college football. So this week against Illinois, the only top 25 team as of right now that Oregon has left on their schedule. I'm not saying Oregon's schedule remaining is a cakewalk after this. They still got Michigan. They still have some other decent games as well. But it's still unlikely that Oregon will face another ranked team until the Big Ten championship game, if they get there.
Well, the idea is they got through the big one, right? They got through the Ohio State game, and now they've gotten it rolling on offense, right? Dylan Gabriel's been rolling. They got Evan Stewart going against Ohio State. Their defense was just good enough in that game to get it done against them. But no, I'm with you. I mean, you look at Oregon's road and you go, okay, well, realistically, up until the Big 12 title game, maybe in a rematch with Ohio State, maybe it's Penn State, maybe it's Indiana, who knows? But this should be the start of the road of getting to the Big Ten title game, and they should, honestly, when you look at them, they should finish the regular season 12-0. But one game at a time, you never know, because Illinois is a dangerous team too. It's not some pushover they're playing this week either.
No, top 20 team in the country Illinois is right now. So you actually have the Fighting Illini offense, which we'll be looking out for when they have the ball.
So I've spent a lot of time this year when we've had Illinois games talking about their offensive line. So let me get away from that for a bit. I think we've got a fun matchup on the outside, right? And I think what we haven't talked about enough, even on this show, is they got two really good receivers. And they lost two really good receivers last year that they had, right? Casey Washington, Isaiah Williams, but they've replaced them with two guys who are producing maybe even better than that. When you talk about Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, these are the guys that make it happen in Illinois' passing game, right? Pat Bryant, 6'3", big-bodied guy, can get downfield, 484 yards this year and 7 touchdowns, a 79.1 receiving grade. He's really the deep threat in this offense. He's got a 98.3 deep receiving grade. Just, again, 6'3", gets down the field, body control really good, can make contested catches. And then Franklin works a little more in that intermediate range, right? 97.4 intermediate grade. Currently the 5th best among qualified FBS wide receivers. So you're talking about just a mix of guys who really, on top of the offensive line improving the pass protection, and Luke Altmaier improving himself, right? We've talked about Luke Altmaier's really good in a clean pocket. Well, who does he throw to when he's in a clean pocket? You got these two receivers. I think it's one of the more underrated pairs of receivers in the country. And look, Illinois, when you talk about these two guys playing the outside, we talk so much about slot receivers, but these are two classic outside receivers. Illinois is 13th in the nation in receiving grade from their outside receivers, okay? They're a real problem out on the perimeter. Oregon counters with a really talented group of corners, though, right? When you talk especially Jabbar Muhammad there on the outside, they're 12th in the nation in coverage grade from their outside corners. So you really talk about Muhammad and those guys on the outside. Dante Manning's still out there. Oregon doesn't have a single player with at least 50 coverage snaps with a coverage grade under 65. I mean, they're just fundamentally sound. I can't say there's really one guy who's having an All-American type season in their secondary, but sometimes the secondary is just as strong as your weakest link, and they don't really have too much of a weakest link. So I think Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin have to be really good for Illinois to win any game, but especially this game in such a prime matchup with Oregon's secondary.
Absolutely. And on the other side of the ball is almost the same thing, too, is can Illinois just get after Dylan Gabriel at all, because they have a very, very dangerous group of weapons like Illinois does as well. Dylan Gabriel has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country so far this year, especially when he has time to work from the pocket. He's far less effective, though, when defenses try to speed him up. Right now, he's 4th in the FBS in passing grade when he isn't blitzed, with a 91.8 mark, 67.6 grade when he is blitzed. That's 70th in the country. So you're talking about one of the best in the nation when he's not blitzed, and he's a below-average quarterback when he is blitzed. Illinois, so far this year, blitzes on 42.1% of their passing plays. That's the 33rd highest rate in the country. So nothing crazy, but they do blitz more than most teams. And really, it's imperative that their defense gets home on Dylan Gabriel to take some of the pressure off of its secondary, because Dolan, the Fighting Illini, have played man coverage on the 6th most snaps in the country, which leaves their defensive backs on an island against Oregon's uber talented receivers. I mean, Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, Trayshawn Holden, a bunch of guys are super talented in that receiving core, and Dylan Gabriel also super talented in delivering accurate footballs against man coverage. Right now, he's a 139.2 passer rating against man coverage. That's the third best in college football this year. So Illinois, with how much they blitz, and listen, that's an avenue for them to have an advantage because Dillon Gabriel, like I mentioned, is not blitzed. It's not great against when he's blitzed that much, but man coverage on those receivers, if you give Dillon Gabriel time back there, he's going to pick them apart. They need to get pressure on Dillon Gabriel with their blitzes and against a really good offensive line as well, or else Dillon Gabriel and those receivers are probably going to tee off on them.
For sure, and I think, and the blitzing in Illinois being famous for that five-man rush, I was looking into this earlier today too, and Gabriel, when you talk about, sometimes the blitzes can include like simulated pressures where he's still only sending 4 and things like that. I looked at also when Gabriel sees 5 or more pass rushers, okay, obviously blitzing, but get into a little different realm here. I saw his passing grade somewhere around a 54. Yeah. And Illinois, that's what they're going to do. They're going to send 5. They're going to get in cover 1, press cover 1, and they're going to make you beat them and beat them quick, right? So I think it is the one schematic advantage where, we've still seen Oregon's pass protection kind of be a bit up and down this year, especially on the inside. And you can see when Gabriel gets sped up a little bit, if they can win the battle up front, that 5-on-5 battle, I think Illinois starts to talk about getting into this game. And I think a big thing for Oregon, too, just to counteract that, too, is getting Jordan James going, right? Yeah. We've seen stretches this year where Jordan James been a really physical runner, has really established that physicality. I think that would help burn out that defensive line a little bit, but Illinois and that 5-man pressure would be my number one concern if I'm Oregon's offense.
And not only that, Dolan, but the Illinois run D, I didn't even mention it, Illinois' run D is vulnerable this year. They did a great job against Michigan, but that was mainly because they were able to just stack the box against Michigan. They had no threat of a passing game. That's not the same thing with Oregon. They have a threat of passing the game right now. So, Illinois right now is 111th in run defense grade this year. So against Jordan James and that offensive line as well, that's a big advantage. So that's another thing too, is Oregon can just run the ball, make Illinois stack the box a little bit, and Dillon Gabriel go over the top on them as well. Dolan, right now this is a 3-touchdown spread, more than a 3-touchdown spread, 21.5 point favorite for Oregon right now. Even though it's a top 20 matchup, will Oregon win by that much, or will Illinois keep it close or even pull off the upset?
I'm going to play it safe and not go that far. I do think Oregon's going to win this game. I think it's a different caliber of football you're talking about, right? And I think there are things, I think Illinois, if they're going to win this game or even be within probably 3 points or something like that, bring it down to the wire, I think Illinois is going to have to play a perfect football game, and I just don't know. It's hard to bet on that on the road in Autzen Stadium. I've got Oregon 34-24. I do think Illinois, the pressures can give them some problems. I think if they protect Luke Altmaier, I think he can always give you some issues because he's really good in a clean pocket. I just think it's a different caliber of football when you're talking about Oregon. Is right now they're the number 1 team in the country. I think there's zero doubt that they're one of the best 5 or 6 teams in the country at the very worst, right? They have national championship expectations, and a team with those sort of expectations they need to win a game like this, right? At home against an Illinois team that they're better than, that they have more athletes than, right? And I think Oregon getting by that Ohio State game too, I have to think they're going to be relatively loose. Now, okay, we got through Ohio State. Let's get through the rest of the regular season and then ratchet it right back up to that intensity level when we get to the Big Ten title game. But I think they're going to be on a mission now. You've got these last 5 games that they should win all of them. This is the first one. This might be the toughest one of all of them. I see Oregon winning this. I have them by 10. I don't have them blowing them out. I really like Illinois' team. I like the way they're playing, and I really like the way they played against Michigan last week, making the adjustment kind of away from the game that they usually play because Michigan's D-line and their defense is so good, right? So beating them in a different way was encouraging to me, still being the more physical team, but I think against Oregon, this is a little too much for the Illini to handle.
Yeah, I actually have it bigger. I have it right around that spread. I have Oregon 38-17. I think Dillon Gabriel is going to do really well against this defense, and I think Jordan James is going to do really well against this defense as well. And then Oregon, I mean, their pass rush is 16th in pass rushing grade so far this year. And Luke Altmaier, under pressure, is not a very good quarterback. He's very good when kept clean, but you got to keep him clean. I don't know if Illinois will be able to do that in this game. So I think Oregon very much looks like the number 1 team in the country with a convincing victory over a top 20 team. I got Oregon 38-17.
I think too there, guy we didn't mention yet, Derek Harmon I think he's a big factor in this game as well. Illinois got a lot better at offensive tackle this year with J.C. Davis and Melvin Priestley, but I think the inside against Derek Harmon specifically could be still a little bit vulnerable.
Absolutely.